All right, 2 p.m. Central African time. A very good afternoon to business owners, to taxpayers, as well as all the brave souls that are keeping our economy in motion, as well as afloat. You're watching ERS Tax Talk this Thursday. Very happy to have you on the program. Thank you so much for choosing us on the program today. You know, it's the month of October that has just kick-started, and with it comes a date that you cannot afford to ignore. We are talking income tax returns for the year 2025. A year of assessment is what they are calling it, and the clock is ticking toward the 31st of October 2025, the official filing deadline. And whether you run a corporation, whether you run a partnership, or you're a sole trader, compliance for you is not optional. And today you will understand all the dynamics as well as the insights, and you'll appreciate that from two experts from the ERS. So do stay with us. But before all of that, let's look at the business news of the day. In our first story, the Taiwan Africa Vegetable Initiative has injected about 22 million malangeni into safeguarding vegetable biodiversity for food and nutrition in Africa. The project has now expanded, focusing on multi-stakeholder platforms which seek to commercialize the sector, to strengthen value chains, as well as to scale up production. Dr. Sophia Chan, the project manager at the World Vegetable Center, shared these insights during an interview at the launch of the multi-stakeholder platform for traditional African vegetables at Sibanesami Hotel in Eswatini.
For this project, this year we will expect to contribute over 22 million Malagan to this country to implement this project, and we hope to reach more than 10% of the total population of this country, which we already achieved by last year after 4 years of the phase 1 project. And this year we continue to do more. And the most important thing is last phase, we work with 16 pilot schools, but this year we include another 22 schools. So this year we will work with 42 schools.
Sydney Dladla, head of agribusiness at NAMBOT, highlighted the significant reliance Eswatini has on imported vegetables, emphasizing the urgent need to strengthen local production to reduce dependency and improve food security.
Out of the vegetables that we are eating in the country, we eat something like 29,000 metric tons per year. Out of that, only 3,000 is produced locally, and 26 is imported, mainly from South Africa, which says it's only 11% of what we consume that we grow locally, and the 89% is coming from outside. If we look at it in Emalangeni, it's the same thing. We spend over 200 million per year on these commodities combined in terms of buying them from outside.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Sydney Similani, who was representing the minister, stressed that traditional African vegetables must be prioritized.
Traditional African vegetables are not only culturally significant, they are climate resilient, nutritionally dense, and hold immense market potential. Yet until now, our value chains have remained fragmented and farmers produce in isolation. Markets are underserved and policy support has been scattered.
Sophia Zheng, representing Ambassador Jeremy Liang of Taiwan, reaffirmed Taiwan's ongoing commitment to support Eswatini's agricultural sector.
The government of Taiwan remains committed to support the policy of Ministry of Agriculture, and by sharing our expertise, we seek to promote local production, diversification of agricultural production, and most importantly, at this moment, commercialization of the agricultural sector to facilitate Eswatini population.
The Taiwan Africa Vegetable Initiative in Eswatini is in partnership between Taiwan, Eswatini, and the World Vegetable Center, aimed at improving food security and nutrition by promoting traditional African vegetables. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla from Inkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
The Kingdom of Eswatini has been a beneficiary of AGOA since the early 2000s, but it came to an end last month. The agreement allows Eswatini to export products to the United States without paying import duties or quotas on most of its goods, especially textiles, apparel, handicrafts and agricultural products, with reports being that the agreement has been renewed for another year for African countries, but no formal communication has been received yet regarding Eswatini. Where does this leave Eswatini in the meantime? Economist Sanele Sibia weighs in on this impact.
We saw yesterday AGOA coming to its sunset age, and that actually is going to impact on quite a number of our industries, largely the textile industry and the sugar industry, and we do need to be cognizant as a country and find better ways of absorbing the shock, which would require that we diversify the economy. Even though we are waking up to beautiful news of a likely extension, we do not necessarily know when that extension will pull through. Actually, given the fact that we are seeing a day 2 of the government shutdown in the US, so that might be a bit of some miles away, so probably a week or two into the future, because even if this bill were to pass, it requires bipartisan support from House Democrats and House Republicans to actually come into fruition. But what we are noticing, which actually sends a strong signal, is the fact that the extension is going to be just for a year, even though African countries were pushing for a 2-year extension. What it really just must signal to countries is the era of preferential access to US markets is and might likely be coming to an end. So we do need to focus on that diversification, finding new markets to ensure that our commodities remain relatively competitive at market levels. So what we need to be cognizant of is right now Eswatini is getting a 10% base tariff for exports into the US. Now that is actually going to give us a better inkling and a better alignment in terms of absorbing the AGOA shock should an extension not come through, because we are going to become relatively tariff competitive compared to our comparator countries in the region, and that's one of the things that we should be taking advantage of as a country. But suffice to say, we just need to be able to start right now, thinking of how we can trade with the US post this preferential access era.
News just in, Business Eswatini has elected a new board, with Standard Bank Chief Executive Mvuselelo Fagutse retaining his position as the president. Toki Hao, the managing director of Far East Textiles, was also re-elected as chairperson of Business Women Eswatini. Muzi Siaya, the managing director of Ubombo Sugar, was elected vice president, industrial relations, moving from his former role as VP, trade and commerce. Anthony Geldard, the chief executive of Logico, takes over as the vice president, trade and commerce. You're watching ERS Tech Talk. We have a conversation awaiting after the break.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406 7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us as we approach as we are in the month of October. Let's turn our attention now to a critical topic for the business community: income tax return filing for the 2025 year of assessment. The deadline for filing income tax returns for businesses is the 31st of October this year, and today we aim to remind businesses of their obligations, guide them through the submission process, as well as clarify payment methods. Joining us are representatives from the ERS to provide expert insights, as well as to answer your questions. We have the ERS Manager for Communications and Marketing, Duduzo Dlamini, as well as the ERS Manager for Taxpayer Education and Information, Mahlalela. Very good afternoon to the both of you. Thank you for joining us. Such an interesting conversation. It's interesting to me. Every conversation we have, we are reminding people to comply. And we can never remind them enough, because people are people and they're infallible, they have mistakes. But as long as they're reminded, those mistakes perhaps are thrown out the window. Let's get into this very critical question. And I suppose the first one is for you, Nkosi. We understand all non-individual entities, right? We have VAT registered, right? VAT registered businesses as well as companies. Talk to us through that insight.
Good afternoon to you, Sfiso, and to all viewers at home. So yes, today we're here to remind all businesses, meaning all non-individual entities that are in operation in Eswatini, about filing their income tax, their annual income tax return, which is due in October. When we say individual entities, we're speaking to whether VAT registered companies or non-VAT registered, which is all companies, for as long as your due date, or rather your balance month, aligns with the commissioners, which is June. We are reminding you that you are filing your return in October. And one might even think, what do I need to have in place before I file? One key thing is that you have a TIN with the ERS. You must be registered with the ERS. And also another question could be, what if I didn't operate in the year of 2025? Am I expected to file my annual income tax return? Filing is an obligation, whether income was generated or not. So we do expect that you will update the commissioner with your filing, whether you made a zero income or whether you made loss or proper income.
Okay, businesses now understand their obligations, but they also want to know how they should submit their tax returns.
Yeah, thanks, Fiso, and good afternoon to you and the viewers. It is quite easy for how business should submit their returns. We've got a portal which we call Tax Easy, where they will use to submit their returns. So we suggest that should they want to get a hand of that portal, they should visit our website. That's where they should be able to access the portal called Tax Easy. And then for those small businesses who are probably using phones, we suggest that they download the TaxPal app. That's where they should be able to also access the portal called Tax Easy, and they should be able to submit their returns there. And then in terms of the documents which we require while they are submitting their returns, firstly is the financial statements, and then secondly is the pay certificates, and then lastly is the letter of declaration. You should be able to declare, like the word mentioned, that whether you have made money or not, you should submit that letter for you to say that this year I didn't make any income, so that we know how we exempt you from that.
Yeah, it's quite integrated, this system, and very innovative. I understand it calculates on its own.
Yeah, so the good thing about it is it's an online platform. Even before you submit, it should be able to calculate. You should see. So you check if you do balance up. If there are any errors, we do suggest that our clients should be able to fix those errors before they submit, so that there is minimum errors where we need to contact and try fix them. So the Tax Easy portal is quite smart and very efficient.
It's tax made easy, just like its name. And
yeah.
I know you emphasize on double checking the correctness and completeness before clicking on submit. Yeah. That's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's look at the deadline for filing and payment.
Okay. So the deadline for filing, I like that you are putting it both, filing and paying. So if there's any tax liability that needs to be paid, it is also due. The deadline is the 31st of October 2025. Would like to encourage our clients to not wait until the deadline. For us, it's not only just about, or rather tax compliance is not only just about filing and paying, but it's doing things on time. And doing these things on time, both the filing and the payment, means you will avoid penalties and interest. And also you'll be avoiding system congestion. So that is why we encourage that our clients do not wait until the filing due date. Yeah.
Payment methods, I understand you have a plethora now.
Yeah. So in terms of our payment methods, before we even go to our payment methods, we'd like to urge our clients, firstly, be careful. They make sure that they get our accounts from the correct places. So we do have our banking accounts on the website. We also do have our banking accounts on our TaxPal app.
Right.
And then secondly, just to add on top of that, we do have bank accounts with all the banks, which also simplifies the process for our clients and also reduces some of those charges which they will need when they're doing those payments, in terms of the payments which they will be submitting. And then in terms of our payment methods, firstly, we do have EFT. So as I've mentioned, from the bank accounts, they'll use that to do those payments. We do take Momo Pay, and then we also do take bank cash deposits. And then lastly, we do have speed points at our service centers, those who would want to come and pay physically at our touch points. But just to also alert clients there is that we don't take physical cash. So if you are coming to our service center, make sure that it's on your bank card and you are able to tap and swipe on our service points.
We've covered ground on the dynamics of income tax regime as well as return submissions. Can you now give guidance to presumptive tax clients?
Okay, so maybe just to take you back a bit, what is presumptive tax? Yes. Yeah, it is a simplified tax system which was introduced during the amendments of 2023 income tax order, which came into effect the 1st of July 2024. It simply targets especially small and medium entities. Yes, so in terms of the tax rates, they maybe number one, the deadline for them as well is the 31st of October 2025. We expect that they file and they also make a payment if there's any payment due by the 31st of October 2025. In terms of the tax rates, if you made a turnover of 0 emalangeni to 50 emalangeni during the tax year 2025, we expect that you will pay tax at 0%. But if you happen to make a turnover above 50,000 but less than 500,000 emalangeni and you are within the presumptive tax regime, we expect that you will pay tax at the region of 1.75%. Yes, and as well, even with these ones, Tax Ease will do the calculations.
They have 29 days now. Today is the 2nd of October.
Precisely.
Right.
Yeah.
So do what you must. Do what you must. To do so, any last words?
Yeah, I think as we wrap off, is just to thank the clients for always walking the journey with us, and then secondly, as the clients are preparing to file, to always check and make sure there is no errors. As we've mentioned from the Tax Easy portal, it's quite easy to use it, so it does calculate. They must just make sure they check that everything do balance before they submit. And then just to also mention the deadlines we've already passed. For 27th September, we were having our VAT return submission deadline, so those who haven't submitted, they should quickly submit before they start accumulating penalties. And then on the 30th of September, we do know that employers were doing their recon in terms of PAYE certificate around that. And then lastly is just encourage people that they should continue to contact us should they have any information. We are available on email at info@ers. Or at .org.sz, and then also they can contact us through phone 2406 4050, or should they wish to visit our website, is www.ers.org.sz.
Glebo, Ndu, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
You're watching ERS Tech Talk. We have our market analysis after the break.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
You're watching ERS Tech Talk. We get into our market analysis segment now with Sanel Sbia, who joins us telephonically. Mr. Sbia, good afternoon to you. You have 7 minutes to give us a summary of what the numbers are telling us today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ngumalo. So what we're seeing when we're looking at the numbers is, markets seem not to be faced by the U.S. government shutdown as we are officially on day 2 of that U.S. government shutdown. But what we're seeing in terms of the markets, when you look into the U.S., you can see that the Nasdaq, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the S&P 500, they are all on a record territory there, which is something that is quite telling of the fact that markets are somewhat used to uncertainty. And what markets are weighing in is the fact that they do not necessarily expect, this shutdown to be prolonged. But when you're looking at the gains, they remain relatively flat, Ngumalo. If you can, when you follow the numbers, you'll realize that the Dow Jones Industrial Average only, closed 43 points higher yesterday. The Nasdaq closed 95 points higher, and the S&P 500 closed just some 22 points higher. So what we're seeing there is the fact that markets are a bit worried about, what is to come in terms of the government shutdown, but also speaks to other worries that we are seeing in the market, that of a cooling labor market in the U.S., and the fact that we may not necessarily see the non-farm payroll data coming out on Friday, and that those very vital, important statistics may not necessarily come through. But markets are just focused on, at present, they are focused on, the gains that we are seeing, focused on earnings, focused on that AI bandwagon and also focused on those commodities. And then when you jump across the pond to Europe, again, we seeing a bit of some a return to some normal trading activity within those countries, albeit the fact that we are waiting to see what the new Trump tariffs are going to be, that are going to be imposed this week. Again, markets have somehow grown very much used to the uncertainty of, the Trump tariffs and the Trump threats. But when you go into the UK market, it's telling of the fact that, the industrials are somewhat doing better comparatively, and they're taking leave from the US with the Nasdaq composite index, the FTSE 100, getting some 10 points, staying there at 94,000 points. And then strikingly, France is back on that 8,000 mark, getting some 90 points in today's trade, even though there are a bit of political uncertainties within France. But, that conversation around the defense spending and, that NATO meeting that actually just, garnered that reaffirmation in terms of spending that's going to be coming through from those, those defense stocks. And then when you go across Asia, it's a holiday in the US, in China, but Japan and Hong Kong are continuing to show some positive signs of growth. When you look at the Hang Seng, it is now on that 27,000 mark, gaining some 431 points in yesterday's trade, and the Nikkei in Japan gained some 385 points in yesterday's trade. So now that is actually on the background of the news that we've seen coming through from, the Bank of Japan, offering very positive news for business. And, the mood in business in Japan is actually somehow improved. And when we're seeing in Hong Kong, again, that mood is being bolstered by the fact that there are some signs of growth, more especially within the tech sector, and also the fact that markets aren't weighing heavily on that government shutdown. When you come into South Africa, markets are upbeat as well, close to that 110,000 mark, gaining some 679 points in today's trade. That's on the background of, the possibility of an extension of AGOA, and the fact that, regardless of the uncertainty, African countries and quite a number of those commodities that South Africa was exporting to the US were already being tariffed. So the AGOA effect is not that much, but the fact that we are going to see that potential renewal once we get the bipartisan support on that bill by Senator Kennedy, there we might see even more of an upbeat mode within the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We've not seen any changes in the domestic front, but gold is now at $3,900 per ounce. That's largely driven by the uncertainty around the government shutdown, and also, the uncertainties around what's going to happen in Russia. We're seeing the NATO heads of defense meeting there in Norway, just to talk around the ever-increasing threat of Russian encroachment into NATO member countries' airspace. So that uncertainty definitely props up gold to the 3,900 mark, and Brent crude oil has somehow ticked up a bit to $65 per barrel, following that meeting there in Norway, where those NATO countries are somehow contemplating what they're going to do around the Russia issue. And then when you look into the currencies, given the global overall weakness of the dollar, the Lilangan has actually increased against the dollar, and also the gold is propping that up. But that defense flurry in Europe has somehow made the euro stronger compared to the Lilangan in today's trade. And those positive news coming up of Japan have actually made the Japanese yen stronger relative to the Lilangan. Thank you, Mr. Nima.
Mr. Spear, thank you for your time. Appreciate your insights always. That was Senator Spear giving us a lowdown of what the numbers are telling us today in the markets. 30 minutes after 2, you've been watching ERS Tech Talk. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.